Is it necessary for an actor to have an ego?
Yeah, I think it is necessary because in this industry is very, not even this industry, to be an actor, you do have to be confident. I believe that it's in basketball, you know how you can like if you go to the gym every day and if you just shoot and shoot and shoot, you can go to the game and not shoot for anything. Once those bright lights come on, it's game time, and a lot
Right.
of people fall under those bright lights. Like Dwight Howard, he can shoot free throws, believe it or not,
Okay.
but for some reason he even said during the bright lights, it's just mentally he just can't shoot a free throw to save his life because everyone's watching him. The whole world's watching him, and he was just terrible at free
You
throws.
think Shaq was the same as that?
I I think Shaq just never worked on his free throws. I heard about Dwight working on his free throws,
Okay.
but I
Okay.
never heard about Shaq working on his free throws. But the reason I bring that up is because acting it's not the same way. It's all mental,
Okay.
and in order to be you have to be confident in order to be a good actor. I don't know any actor in the industry who's not confident and not successful. You know what I mean? Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, and Angela Bassett,
Right.
Viola Davis, Denzel Washington. You know, they all have egos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They all have egos. It's just I think there's a balance between having a healthy ego, which I think should be for everybody, by the way, versus having an ego where you think you're God.
Like a, yeah, God complex kind
Yeah,
of thing.
God complex, superiority complex. Like I'm better than you. I'm the best here. You know, I can't do anything wrong.
Right.
Shout out to George Lucas in the Star Wars trilogy from the 2000s.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You
Yeah.
told me about that. You said that he kind of shot himself in the foot in the sense of he thought he did everything by himself for the original ones, but really he had help on the original ones, and so he went to do things by himself. He kind of dampened the quality of the ones he did by himself.
And it's funny that you bring that up because he didn't even direct the last one in the original trilogy. He did not direct the Return of the Jedi.
I see.
I think what happened was he got so much of the credit,
Uh huh.
and it's very hard to fight against this. So I'm not really mad at George Lucas. When you have the media, fans, people in the industry
Right.
praising you constantly,
Right.
you think, and you have Indiana Jones, another successful franchise.
Right.
You really don't think you can do anything wrong. You really think you know everything. You really think you're a master of your craft. Like he's a master in a sense. I think he's a master of world building and story building, but I don't think he's a master of screenplay writing. But that's just my opinion. But
Yeah, that's good. That's a good take. I mean,
yeah,
I think he's doing pretty well. So,
yeah.
but I do agree. I have to look more into his work, but I do agree. Now, do you hold the idea? So, in your head, do you hold ego and confidence to be synonymous? Like, do you believe they're the same thing?
I do believe they're the same thing.
Okay.
I do believe that in all confidence, you should have there is a bit of an ego in there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Just imagine this, right? You're in high school, right? Or you're in school in general. You study for this test. You're super prepared for it. You study like 2 hours a night leading up to this test. You're gonna walk into that classroom with your head held high, chest out, extremely confident, not even worried about the test because you know the test. You studied everything. You looked over the notes and whatsoever.
Right.
And then once you get that test, you're gonna ace that test. You're gonna probably be the first one to finish. That's having an ego. That's being confident.
Okay.
Versus walking in there and not having studied, not having done all the prep or anything, and you walk in there a nervous wreck. You know what I mean? If when you're prepared and when you know everything, there's it's confidence, but there's a bit of an ego in there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think for entertainment, ego is important. For craftsmanship, I don't think ego is that important. But I'll go and break that down a little bit later. And then on top of, and in my eyes, ego and confidence are separate. Um, and someone put into great words for me. They're talking about, well, let me start with Quincy Jones. He put into great words himself. He said, ego is just a dressed up insecurity. So a lot of these cases, you'll hear how fragile these actors are, how fragile these entertainers are, because their grandiosity, their ego, it's a balancing act between grandiosity and insecurities. It's like a scale, and it just goes back. It's very volatile. A lot of this this extroversion, this extroverted confidence they try to display is to cover up something they feel like they have come up short on. And you can see that in some of these interviews. You can see that when some of them get dressed about certain topics they're trying to bury. And so that's not confidence to me. That's ego. And ego is, once again, what Quincy Jones, a pretty well established and decorated artist, said, ego is just a dressed up insecurity. And so that's part of the way I differentiate. And the other part is, people say, I'm going to use the word humility, which would be the opposite of ego. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. And so when you have certain people in our history who were like Martin Luther King or Malcolm X, we don't know them personally. They could have had a huge ego. Though an ego for them would be a disservice because they have so much to do. And so they're not thinking less of themselves. They're confident, but they're thinking of themselves less. Think about the bigger picture. And a great example would probably be Harriet Tubman. Mm-hmm. Harriet Tubman's not flexing on people. She's not bragging about her success versus anybody else's. Though she's confident because she knows the job has to get done. Though she's still thinking about her, she's not thinking less about herself, but she's thinking about herself less. Is a bigger picture to this. And so with that new angle or new point of reference, maybe you've changed your idea of what ego and confidence mean, or they're not the same thing. Just want to hear your thoughts on that. Do you still think ego and confidence are one and the same?
No, for sure. I disagree with Quincy Jones. Mm-hmm. I've seen great, even if we do sports, Michael Jordan had an ego.
He did.
You know what I mean? And it served him.
It served him very well.
It served him. Charles Barkley had an ego.
Yeah.
It served him well. Magic Johnson had an ego. It served him well. Denzel Washington. It's weird with Denzel Washington. It's like I see a combination of humility because he's always praising God, thanking the Lord and everything.
It's an ego.
Huh?
I said he has an ego.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he definitely has an ego. You know. And then I look at someone like, because I like watch his personal interviews, and some of his personal interviews when it's just like the 1v1, he's way more aggressive.
Right.
Not aggressive in a bad way, but he's way more like that old head. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's just, even someone like Samuel L. Jackson, you know what I'm saying? He has an ego.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
At least I've seen from his personal interviews.
Yeah.
But I think that what you described with people like being braggadocious. I don't know if I'm saying the word right.
Braggadocious. Yeah.
Braggadocious. I think that is the unhealthy side of having an ego. But I still believe that having a little bit of an ego. Let's not play tit for tat. I believe having an ego is how can I put this? I believe that there's nothing wrong with having a bit of an ego.
No.
Versus having an ego where it reaches God complex. You know what I'm saying? Where you think that you're better than everybody. Like, let's take Harvey Weinstein. That dude had an ego on the wrong side.
Or like R. Kelly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I heard he had like women tied up to the fridge and stuff like that. I don't know what he had going on there, but he had a lot going on for himself. And so that's where, and I agree with you. I believe every creature walking, even down to like, let's use animals, like mammals, like a lion, they have ego and they also have pride. And they say every mammal has pride or an ego. I mean, we all deserve our place in the world. We're all standing here, whether the world wants us to accept it or not. We are standing here. I think what you're trying to say is once your ego becomes a disservice, that's where it's problematic.
Yes, because ego it's not a sin. I think ego can evolve into pride, where you
which is a sin.
which is a huge sin. And I think it's funny because I think pride is the least sin it's the less bad out of all of them. You know what I mean? Like the rest of them sound really bad, but having too much pride, it doesn't serve you. It can serve you in some instances, but most of the time, for keeping it real, it doesn't serve you.
Yeah.
So when I think of ego, right? When I see these actors, even Scarlett Johansson talked about it. She says every actor has an ego.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's when does it get to the point where, like you just said, when it doesn't serve you,
Right.
where it starts to hurt you,
Right.
you know? And I even think, like, I think it's good to have an ego, especially when you're younger.
Yeah.
I was listening to this millionaire, and he says, no one cares when you're broke and have humility. He says, nobody cares.
Wow.
Nobody cares about you if you're broke and and you have humility. Now,
That's
when
a good
you're
quote.
broke and have an ego, that's when people do care.
That's when they get mad. You can't have that. Why do you have that?
Exactly. That's when
justified.
people start to bring you down. People start to care because they see that you have that confidence and that drive and that ambition to be greater.
Yeah.
But he says this is what's even more powerful. When you have money, when you have success, and you still have humility.
Yeah.
He says that's even more powerful than being broke and having an ego.
Of course.
But he says no. He says so when you're young and when you're out here, have an ego. He says obviously don't have too much of an ego, but have an ego. Be a dog out here. He says, but I'll tell you what, no one cares if you're broken and have humility.
Okay. All right. You know,
Yeah.
that's an interesting take on it. I like that. So how big of an ego does Keanu Reeves have?
None. That man's humility. That man's the definition of humility.
And do you feel like it's a disservice to him, or do you feel like it's a service to him?
It has definitely been a service to him.
From the beginning till now, or you just as of now post all the success? Or
I think you've always had humility.
Yeah, as we said, our personality types don't really change much, and
Yeah.
so some things can dissipate. Some things can dissipate as you get older, but for the most part, we don't really change much. So he's probably been humble his whole life.
And I think Keanu Reeves is a prime example of someone who did not let the fame get to his head.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it's perfect timing for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that right. Well, with all that being said, guys, we're trying to differentiate between ego and confidence. They can be synonymous. I do believe ego does serve you in some ways, or definitely exerting a lot of confidence does, especially when it comes to these basketball players, especially when it comes to even these like rappers and artists, because they're their boss. I think in the film industry, it's a slippery slope because you cannot outshine the master. We talk about that.
I agree.
It's a slippery slope.
We can make a part 2 if you want to.
We'll definitely make a part 2 of this, guys. We are working actors. We're constantly changing our actor profiles and updating them to optimize our careers. Go check out our IMDb links in the bio. Check them out. See how we update them. See what's going on. And get involved in the projects that we're involved in. It's Black Hollywood.
It'll be great.